Alright, hello everyone. Welcome back to the stream. I've managed this week to find some time. So, is it running? Let me quickly check on whether everything is going. Well, just let me know in the stream if you can see and hear everything alright, then we can get started. So, today actually, Millennium was planning to join us. Unfortunately, he didn't feel too good in the end, so he had to cancel for this week. But I hope we'll have him back on next week. But for today, I guess I'll be streaming everything on my own side. And I'll just talk about the creation process and everything. I wonder if the stream is working. Somehow this week everything seems a little bit different. Oh, wonderful. Seems like... Oh, hey there, first people in the chat. Okay, then I'll just get started and I'll start talking about what I'm doing and whatnot. Justin too. Hello. You really always join like in the first minute or so. That's quite incredible. So let me start with some good news for this week. I've really for a long time wanted this, but maybe you noticed already. I'm not in ZBrush Core anymore. I finally got the full version of ZBrush Core. The full version of ZBrush, the ZBrush Pro version. And so a bunch of things are new to me now. I've not really had much opportunity to play around with it yet. I just bought it basically yesterday. So I'm really looking forward to be working with this today. And what I want to be doing today is to practice a little bit a certain new style that I was practicing yesterday. So this model here is what I created yesterday. And I will be adding here a new sphere. I'll put the old head right next to it, and I'll be basically trying to replicate it without looking too much over there, but you know, every now and then comparing it and see how much I kind of remember the shape. And while doing so, I can talk about the decisions. And there are many things that are really different to it compared to my previous approach. Thank you, the unknown one. I'm really glad my tutorials helped you. Thanks for the comment. And don't forget that I'll be reading the chat, so if you have any questions, you can feel free to ask. Give me just a few more seconds to set something up. Yeah, the bad news on the other hand is that I lost my laptop. I used to have one, now I only have my PC. So I used to kind of look at how the stream is going and everything on the laptop, but this is now a bit more complicated. So I'm trying to use my phone instead. Anyways, let's get started. So, wow, there's so many brushes. I don't even know where to look. I always like to start with the move brush for everything organic, pretty much. That is because we always want to start with a very low resolution in the geometry. So I might as well just re-dynamesh the whole thing, but not with too high of a resolution. So let me see what's appropriate. Maybe something around 70. And with this and the symmetry on, you can very easily make like rough adjustments and just push the whole geometry around. And so one of the things that I've been doing a bit different up until now is I've been making a lot more realistic proportions. So my head was a lot more stretched all the time, and so I tried this time to be a lot more stylized in the proportions in particular. So I'm going to leave it very near to being a sphere, almost. So Then let's try to make the eye sockets next. I'm so used still to having the brushes down there. Pretty sure there is, you can customize the user interface, but I still have to figure these things out. Is there anything in particular you guys want to see or hear about the process of making a face in ZBrush? I'd be happy to talk about anything. What was I searching for? I forgot. Alright, let's see. I think the way the user interface things works is if I go to where is it? Preferences, custom UI, no. Interface. I don't know, it was somewhere here. Configure, yeah. And then enable customize. Then I get to drag and drop the various tools into the spots where I want them, for example down here. And I really like having the clay build-up brush and some others here. So let's try control. That's not it. Shift. Somehow you're supposed to be able to drag it out. Hello, by the way, Albane Edge and Kevin B. Welcome back. I'm really glad to see you all the time on the stream. I don't know, today's kind of weird for streaming. For some reason everything kind of starts slower than usual. I wonder how today is different from usual. If anyone knows how to drag these icons out in the user interface, let me know. Do I have to push this? Unlock UI. Because from what I know, somehow you're supposed to be able to drag these out to rearrange them. Oh, I got it. Perfect. So it's Control Alt. And I want the clay build up brush down here. That's so much better when I have all of them down there. Then I need the move brush. Yeah, well noticed. That's the new ZBrush. I just got my license and I'm super excited. But I have to set things up newly. I just got it basically. I've still so many things to figure out. And there were actually so many surprises that I had already looking at this software. Did you know, for example, that ZBrush has an entire painting tool built in with, like, they tried to simulate stuff like oil paint or watercolor or pastel or something. Thanks there. Yeah, like, and it's not even too bad. I mean, of course, I don't think I would be using it for painting in that sense, but for sketching it's pretty cool. I'll show you right after this. I'm just thinking of setting up a few more things. Oh, that was the wrong one. Apparently you can't drag this one, but you have to change. Oh no, what happened now? This one goes here. But you have to change the tool first, and then you should be able to. Smooth brush here. Like when it becomes a small icon and then you hold Control Alt, then you can drag it outside and put it wherever you want. I don't use the clay brush though. I wanted the trim dynamic brush. So clay buildup, move brush, trim dynamic. That's mostly what I use. Let's see, is there anything else? Well, I'll pick the other ones up later when they become relevant. And then when I'm done, I basically have to go back to preferences and disable customize UI. And now it should be fine. Now I can just use them as tools. And this will make it a lot easier, especially because I'm used to this process now. Okay, but as I said today, I want to quickly practice the proportions that I figured out on one of my recent sculpts, which is this one. But now I actually wanted to show you the sketching tools. We'll come back to here in a second. So in Z plugins, there is one tool here and one tool somewhere else. There is quick sketch, which I can show you for a second. It's just kind of weird how the standard settings are really not very useful, or maybe some people can make good use of them, but I'm not too sure how you can make good drawings with this brush. However, that doesn't mean that you couldn't change it. So if you go here to the textures and you just disable alpha and the texture, you just get a normal brush, and if you improve the settings just a little bit so that you don't get the dots and everything. I think what I did was I liked using the lazy mouse here. Then you get a really nice stroke, and you can disable the symmetry and yeah, just make your drawings whatever you like. And that's already pretty cool, because you can just make a whatever drawing, and it's actually on like a plane, and then you can just keep it somewhere and look at it every now and then, and it can be your reference. But then, like this one, I can still understand how it works. It's just a plane, and you paint on it. But there's something way more interesting. If you come to document and you go to paint stop, and I really hope, yeah, I should be fine. I'll just switch to it. Everything changes. Like this whole, oh wait a second. I don't want to have the plane still visible. I want to have an empty canvas. So let's try again, because you can actually use this tool to paint and then drop the color basically on the 3D model, but I don't want that for now. Let's go back into paint stop. And so the whole user interface changes now, and they have like charcoal here and the eraser, obviously, marker. I mean, I didn't think that this even exists in ZBrush. That's so interesting. And if you start a new file, so let's do that with pixels, it will even ask you what kind of paper you want. And if I select, for example, a rough paper, you get the texture, and then you can paint on it, and you will get all these details. Let's try to paint here. Yeah, it's really interesting to me. Oh, Kaylee D finally bought ZBrush too. Oh really? That's wonderful. So you also found the drawing tools then? Because for me, I really had no idea about these drawing tools. To me, ZBrush was always, well, the sculpting software. I never thought about the possibility of painting in it, but then you can just paint now, apparently. Okay, but I'm not really into painting that much anyway, so I really want to get into it, but I guess that's for another time. I just wanted to quickly show that. Millennium doesn't feel too well. Take a rest, Millennium. But definitely looking forward to next week having you on the show. I wonder if you can call ZBrush a paid blender. I think the two are really different. As in, let's go back now to the file that I was previously working on. As in, Blender is much more powerful in being able to do various things. Where does this model come from? Sorry, I have no idea where that one even comes from. Okay, no, Blender has like so many tools for different things. What is it like the rendering tools and the simulation tools? ZBrush doesn't have any of that. ZBrush is focused on a different area. I guess though for certain areas like character modeling, yeah, ZBrush has really quite some advantages. Hello, Redbird and Jester. Thanks for joining the stream. Okay, but now let's get back to modeling. As I said, I want to try to replicate my sculpt from yesterday so that I can remember the shape better. So what I'll do is I'll create a new subtool here and just try to get the same thing done once again. Okay, let me ask everyone here. Who has seen the video that's not anymore? That's not on my channel anymore. The one where I was walking through the forest. Because Redbird mentioned it. I was kind of in a good mood and I thought it was fun to just put something up like that. But it was meant to be more like a joke. Oh, okay. I'm surprised how many actually saw it. But that's pretty, like, there is a kind of a message in it that I wanted to kind of say with it, which is basically that you see a lot about the people who kind of stream on YouTube and everything, as in, oh, they do this and they do that, but then actually as soon as the people stop streaming or whatnot, they're just normal people. And I'm not always sitting in front of my computer too. In my free time I would just go out and walk through some places or talk to people. That's pretty much what I wanted to say by that video. But thanks that I'm really glad that you enjoyed the video contents here. Can you guys hear the noise in the background? I'm really sorry, but there is some construction work going on right in front of my window, it seems. They couldn't have chosen a worse time. It surprises me so much because this is literally a place where no car would usually come. Like once a month, and it has to be today, exactly today. No, what happened? Pressed the wrong button. Oh wow. Okay. I lost the configurations on my user interface, so I'll quickly get my tools back in. So I wanted clay build-up brush, and then I'll also need the move brush, and finally I'll use the trim dynamic brush. That should be good for now. Yes, I do remember the videos in which I modeled with Blender. It's not that long ago, is it? I still use Blender, by the way, for a bunch of things. It's just that the main modeling process is now completely in ZBrush. So I would use it for things like topology, although I'm trying to do even those things in ZBrush recently. Still trying to figure out the best ways to do it though. Okay, I think that will do for now. Alright, let's get started then, once again. So, I wonder what I can point out about the sculpt. I'm not trying to trace it, so I'll try not to be too much in the 90-degree views. So, one interesting aspect is that in the back of the head, you really have a kind of a sharp edge around here. It kind of looks like a corner, right? Looks a bit wrong sometimes, but it seems like this is closer to reality as you would think. Good question comes from Khalil D once again. Loving your questions as always. How do you keep your proportions accurate when sculpting? Would the sketch tool be useful to be marking the model? Well, I think that most artists just gain the ability to figure out the right proportions on the fly, like when they're working on it. I'm pretty sure that if it's very important that you get certain very accurate proportions right, that you can just, you know, use some reference picture that you drew, but otherwise I don't really think that most artists need any additional help. So when I'm sculpting, I'm just like rotating a lot around the model, and I try to see it from all angles, try to figure out how to, like, as long as I look at it from many angles, I will really easily figure out all the things that look off, and through that process you just go and fix it here and there, and that usually brings me to where I want to be. Okay, I'll take this model and move it away now, because I really don't want to have it too easy. It's almost like I'm tracing it otherwise. Okay, now I'm back to here. And so, as I mentioned at the beginning, the purpose of the practice that I'm doing today is to reinforce the learning that I had yesterday. I was making this model strongly, like I kept looking at some other people's work while I was making this to get the proportions very similar to what other people do, and I kind of like the outcome, as it is very strongly stylized, different to what I usually do. And so to remember the shapes better, I decided to today make a resculpt of the same thing, basically. And we'll see how it goes. Let me just turn up Dynamesh a little bit. Okay. Did I mention, by the way, that I'm finally mostly through my exams for this semester? I'm so glad, you can't believe it. On Thursday, I actually had 6 hours of exams in a row. How is it abroad in your countries? Is school and education very strict? Regarding the showcase of my models, I will do that eventually, but to be honest, I still don't have a very solid collection of consistent outcomes. I'm really in the middle of actually gaining a lot of like pace at working. I'm making a lot more characters now that I used to make, so I'm very confident that there will be more to show in the future, but for now I'm just practicing, basically, for the most part. Kelly D says, school is very strict in the US, so much work to do depending on your major. The United States are an interesting example because I hear so many things. Actually, I heard that school and education in the United States is very easy. Um, but I really don't know much more about it because I've obviously never been at a school in the United States. But how is it strict? In what way? Because from the image, it seems like the United States are very, what is it? They really strongly value their freedom, as in individualism. So I'm curious about that. Well, as for a showcase, sorry, I'm kind of continuing on two conversations here, but just in two answers on the showcase thing. You're right, it probably doesn't need to be consistent, but I would prefer it to be because a showcase is, after all, a public representation of what I do in a summary. And at least for people who are thinking about giving you a job, it doesn't look too good usually when you have a portfolio or a showcase that is too much, well, in all categories. It will give them an impression of you not being very good at anything. I mean, of course, I don't really have the experience to talk from, but that's what I heard quite often from professionals, that you really want to keep your showcases very consistent in style and in what you do, and that you should almost target them at the place where you want to work. And I shouldn't really have to worry about that right now, but other than that, I mean, I don't know. Even for myself, I feel like I want to improve a bit more first before I and make the showcase properly well done, because even to a normal viewer, I think it will look better if there is more of a concept in it. Okay, now going back to the story. KLD says, it's easy depending on what major you pick. If you're an engineer or doing something like computer science, it can be very demanding. You'll never have time to do anything else other than homework. I see. And Aesthetic Vision, hi by the way, welcome back to the stream. I love your YouTube name. Pigeons. I've never thought of them as being aesthetically pleasing, but anyways. Is saying some of the schools suck in the United States though. My school could be summarized by an actual quote from a teacher who said, well, you can just use a calculator, so you don't really need to know that. These kind of quotes. Yeah, I've heard them too. But let me yeah, it's kind of true, I guess. When you're in a specialized school, they will be making sure, I think, that you know about the subject. I guess there must be quite a difference then between general schools and schools with some specific education. Because I've heard of people who were like average students here abroad, but then they would go on exchange to the United States and they would have mostly A+ in most subjects. And they were like saying it wasn't very demanding because, especially in mathematics, they would say like that the curriculum is kind of designed in a different way so that they would usually already have done it in school. But then at the same time, yeah, pigeons are wonderful. But then at the same time, I'm always surprised because, like, most innovations, most technology it often comes from the United States, right? So the education must have some sort of impact on that. But I guess that just as many, what is it, stereotypical thoughts exist for Asian education in Asian countries, I believe that most people think that it's very strict and everything is about the grades, right? And you have to come to the exams no matter what and stuff like that. I guess there's some truth to it. as in people care a lot about their education. People will take many exams in order to get far in their career. But then at the same time, it's really not much more difficult, in my opinion. At least from what I experienced so far. Everything is doable. That's mostly what I mean. It's nothing that just because we are not used to it, we could never go there and like ever get used to it. So it might be strict, but actually it's just that the people here, it's more important to them, is what I would say. I would like to try to make some hair today for this sculpt, by the way. I hope we'll get to that. Aesthetic Pigeon is saying now, I think it's more of the idea of personal success and being the best in America that creates that trend. Plus, schooling is very different depending on where you live and your income. Income must be definitely big. Well, but to be honest, I'm starting to have a very well, it's not negative, but I kind of try to see school and education as something that I'm not so sure if I like it that much, because university in particular, if you think about what it is for, most people would like to say that it is for learning, that you go there to learn something, but I feel like that's not entirely true, because you will be forced to do many things in university that you probably won't need in work and so on. And the reason for that is because their certificate, their title that you graduated that university will be sort of a proof to a company that you are a person who can, well, follow instructions. I mean, you know, of course, that in university you'll have to, write a report and submit it in exactly this formatting and font size, and everything is decided. But then the content of the report is actually not that interesting, or there is not much learning in the content. And so I feel like university often educates just people who fit into an environment of a company. And when you think about it, if you want to be an artist or if you want to do your own company, I really doubt how useful university is, because what you need for being independent is not what you learn in university. In being independent, you need to have the ability, you actually need the knowledge for many things, the technical knowledge. You need to be able to, well, tell the risks apart and kind of make good decisions. So while I definitely think that if I was a company, I would look, and it was a job that wasn't, what is it? Like if it's a typical office job where you need, I can't even think of a good example. I think in an ideal world, everyone should just be really good at their profession. Just thought about that. So in the comments, Kylie Lee says, I personally think that university isn't as important today as it was years ago. Sure, you may need a degree for some fields, but there are many things you can teach yourself online. And oh my god, how do I even spell that? HJMCK123 says, uni gave me motivation to actually do the work. Yeah. Both of you have great points, I think. Like, university can be the environment. I think it is very important to have the people around you to motivate you to do things. That's very true indeed. But then at the same time, I don't think there's anything that goes against having both, having an environment that actually teaches you and having an environment that motivates you. So I feel like there should be a new sort of institution around the world happening, which is not called university, and you don't really get a title, and there is no such things as exams. I was thinking that an ideal environment would be one that forces you to learn, but it doesn't tell you what you have to learn. But they support you in anything. For example, if I was going to that conceptual institution and I would say that I want to learn about 3D and modeling, then their job would be to support me in my efforts to learn this skill. So they could provide me with tutors or books or whatever. But it should still be me who decides on what kind of areas I want to go into. If that was the case, then I think we could really become much better technicians, rather than, following a standardized course where we have to follow everything. And Kitaru-san, you're welcome. I'm really glad my videos are useful to you. Thanks for joining the stream as well. I hope the conversation is interesting. Justin Chu says he's indicating that people who want to learn modeling 3D anime girls should go for the anime quarter. Well, who is indicating that? I don't. Well. Oh, I guess you're talking about me. Okay, whatever. No, it's not self-advertisement, believe me. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to talking about how should I start this conversation? I think still that university is a great environment to do things. For example, one project that I'm trying to get started here is I want to make an event here at my university where I get artists from all over the country, hopefully even from around the world, to come to university and do basically live art sessions in public spaces, so that the students can walk by and talk to them and see what they're working on, and also make a stage event in combination, which is all about art and forwarding certain messages about, for example, equality could be one. I think art should be used as a communication tool as well, and so with these two goals in mind, I'm thinking about throughout the next couple of years to initiate this project, so that people can come together, talk about art, see the good sides of it, and get excited, and all these kind of things. Aesthetic Pigeon is saying, the idea is that the students are in control of learning, and it actually works really well for what I've heard. Is there actually such places that allow you to study whatever you want? Because there is one big issue with that I can totally understand, and I have a good example for that as well afterwards, which is that when you give students the freedom to, at their own pace, study whatever, I mean, how many people will actually sit down and study? I think that the motivational issues are still very big for most people, understandably, to some extent. And I mean, it would be nice, of course, if we can get people to a point where they really, out of their own interest and their own motivation, can just, they don't want to rest and they just want to study. But in reality, I feel like that's a bit unlikely in most cases. And my example that I wanted to bring up is that I'm part here at university of an organization that was completely newly formed, and it's not one that you can join, well, if you want to. It's one that you have to be selected for. Anyways, what happened here was that we had a vision that was not very clearly defined at the beginning, because basically we started out just a few semesters ago, and we were asked to make contributions in certain fields and to make the campus and the university a better place. That was part of our mission anyways, next to some learnings and things that we had to do. However, as there was no requirement, as in you must do it, basically nothing really happened throughout the whole time. I mean, apart from like very few exceptions, of course. But it shows that if you don't make your vision and your demands clear in an organization, or something that might not entirely be based on the motivations of individuals, as a group in particular. Yeah, in a group, if you don't define very clearly what the group has to be aiming for, it's very hard to get the group to move by themselves, because everybody will be kind of trying to pull in a different direction, and then they would rather just stop usually, rather than trying to find a solution that works for everyone. Let's see what the comments are saying. If you want to look them up, they're called Sudbury schools. That's interesting. If you want to know more about them, I'm not an expert on it, I've just heard about them and don't want to say anything wrong. I'll look that up later. I've never heard about that. I mean, I don't think I'll be going to, and I'm not sure, to another school myself anytime soon, but I'm glad to hear that it exists. Reason for it also being that if you're an artist, it is truth, I believe at least, that the companies, the game studios and so on, they don't look at your degree too much. They'll be happy, for sure, if you have a degree in something, because it's just saying that you're more useful of a person, likely to be. But in the end, the quality of your artwork, the quality of your portfolio will be a much more important factor. And if you really want to prepare for a job in this industry, I think it's way more important to really get the opportunity to practice all day long, to connect with skilled artists who can teach you directly and so on. So for these kind of industries where it's not about formal education, where it's about creativity, that would be a very good solution if it could become standard. Justin 2 is saying, I'm not the kind of person who can sit down and study. There will always be pencil and erase and a sketchbook hidden somewhere for entertaining purpose. Yeah, definitely. But it comes down to seeing a purpose in what you're doing, I think. Like if you see a purpose in drawing, this will be your passion. Otherwise, if you see a purpose in studying science, I'm pretty sure you'll have a lot of motivation to study the science, even though it's just studying as usual. But I guess in the end, people shouldn't blame their environment too much for their success. I mean, even if university doesn't give you the ideal environment, there's still many things to be gained. Just thinking about the social aspects and, the fun that you can have. It's a once-in-a-lifetime experience. I would be even thinking about just going to university for that purpose. I mean, it's quite a good reason to go to university for making a network. What a good way to put it. Instead of saying to have fun. But yeah, pretty much that's also totally a good reason to be joining such a place. Justin 2 is saying, I only do it as great as I can do if I have the mood, but I always don't have the mood. That's a very interesting topic, I think. And there is a lot we can do about it, by the way. People often don't realize, I think, how much they can do about mood. And okay, let's start with this. I think it's very true that that the success of various activities that we do depends on the mood that we're in, and that the quality can differ, the motivation can differ, how long we can stick with it differs a lot. But it being basically a question of your mindset, I think that for example, trying to be putting a conscious effort into becoming a more positive person can be very important. And what I mean by that is, for example, simple things like if you watch movies and you know how there's very picky people who are like, well, this movie was kind of not the greatest, the story didn't make much sense, and kind of complaining all the time. That is not very positive. I mean, we don't have to agree with everything in order to be positive, but appreciating the efforts, the good sides of everything around us, and still criticizing it, but first appreciating whatever you see will over time change you. That's for me one thing that helped me a lot personally. And another thought is that, like, it's a bit what is it, contrary, but if I think how unimportant I am in the big picture personally, that can be quite a good way to escape negative feelings as well. For example, if I'm feeling bad and I'm demotivated about making art and everything, I just have to think about how I'm just one person on this world and everything, and that makes me realize that the kind of the negative feelings that I'm going through are nothing in comparison to the other things going on this world. And so I realized that it really doesn't make much sense to keep thinking about it too much, that it's just a phase that will be over on the next day probably, but that's just a personal thing. But constantly trying to search for these tricks that will help you out of that, making this conscious effort, whatever the solution is for you, will get you there, because we always get to the places we want to be eventually. It's just the people who give up searching for it, who actually believe that it's impossible to change, who will actually not be able to change themselves. So as long as you believe that there is the opportunity to change, you're pretty much fine. And I would suggest to try to see the world very positively, and to just appreciate everything, to make fun of like a lot of things, of yourself, of everything, not to take things very serious. Early on, I had lots of pride related to my YouTube channel, for example, or my artwork. I would think that, this is special. I'm doing something that's that I worked so hard for. But then if I keep thinking that, it gives me the, I cannot afford showing weaknesses anymore. If I have I have the pride and I don't want to show any weakness in that aspect. However, that is just not going to work. So instead I decided to be just completely the opposite. What I'm doing is, in my opinion, just really irrelevant. I'm just doing it for fun. I enjoy it. I think there is a meaning to it. I do it out of these reasons nowadays, and doing it this way gives me a very better access to it as for motivation wise, because no matter what criticism I get, no matter how many failures I go through, well, I'm only doing it for my own beliefs anyways, so there is no problem there. Now I've been talking a lot. What does the chat say? Okay, Static Pigeon is saying something that helped me to get motivated to create more is just doing drawing exercises or something random to get warmed up, or to just say that I made something. Oh, and it continues too, trying to get away from the mindset that everything I make needs to be my best work for something. Yeah, I think that's really where eventually we will get as soon as we kind of accept that we don't have to be perfect, we're always striving, we're always criticizing, but nothing is a failure, it's just a progress. And we keep appreciating the little steps that we make. I think that having the motivation will become easier. And that doesn't mean that we will not have times of demotivation. However, we will gain the confidence that it's going to be over on the next day. For me, if I don't feel too great, I can completely accept that feeling nowadays, and I just go to sleep again, and I trust myself that on the next day I'll be fine, and I'll be back doing something that I will appreciate. And to me, that works at the moment. It's a lot better, at least, than the what I used to do in the past couple of years. More people seeing my vlog. Thanks. I was thinking actually of, well, you'll be. It will be a surprise. I shouldn't say too much. Sometimes there might pop up some random videos on my channel. For those who are very quick in finding them and watching them, but they will only be up for 24 hours at most, so if you happen to find some random videos from me, feel lucky and and just enjoy. It's mainly for fun, nothing more than that. Just into saying, I cannot afford to show any weakness anymore. The last words of Daniel before he became a villain. Interesting story. Could that be the start of a villain? I cannot afford to show weakness. I like the idea. Aesthetic Pigeon says, for me, taking away the pressure makes the process so much more enjoyable and lets me experience more. It's different for everyone though. I wonder, is it really that different for everyone? Because I really agree with what you're saying. So it made me think about it. Is it not maybe something that works for most people? I mean, I think I'm very sure at this point that the thing that demotivates us is failure and expectations that you couldn't meet. I mean, what else is a reason that would stop you? If you see a meaning in something, because we all consciously think we want to do this, so we see a purpose in learning 3D. I assume that from in this conversation. However, if we fail at doing so, if we don't meet the expectations, it will be quite hard to keep doing it. And so if we interpret our failures differently, I feel that that's a very, very solid solution to get there. Because it's unrealistic to expect us to really become so good that we don't have failures. I don't think anyone can get there, really. Some people, Aesthetic Pigeon is saying, some people work better when there's pressure on them to perform, I think. How so? I mean, at university, I perform a lot better if my deadline is within the next 10 hours. Because I'll not have motivation to do some of my assignments until I really have to. Is it that kind of thing? I'm just questioning a little bit if that is the right thing for the person to do in first place, if that's the case. I mean, well, to some extent it helps to have an environment that, but I mean, can't we challenge ourselves, or do we really need to have pressure in a negative sense to help us be more productive? I think it's probably better for our health, at least, to try to find a solution that does not involve negative feelings too much, because I do kind of believe that they negatively affect our health. So staying away from those will have many benefits, not only in the professional aspects. Justin Chu says those are masochists. Well, you can take it that way for sure. Justin Chu is now saying all streamers are all streamers' advice. I only follow 2 streamers, and both of them are philosophical. Well, I don't know. But I think artists need it. It's not that artists need to be So, what I think is that in order to become an artist, you need to practice thousands of hours, and you need to think a lot about finding the right way to practice. And I think it comes from there, because if you're not thinking about the world enough, if you're not being philosophical, it's very likely that you won't even be able to get the mindset that motivates you enough to become a good artist. I think that's why the artist people who do streams and who work a lot have shared this kind of common philosophical aspect. But speaking of motivation and having good days and bad days, I definitely don't have the best day today myself. I mean, I just woke up, maybe that's why. And I totally enjoy the sculpt and everything. So that's kind of what I was saying, as in, you have to look at things positively, but then I don't have a fire in me right now. I had yesterday one. Yesterday, I loved yesterday. I was just done with my exams and so excited that I could finally sit down and sculpt something. So then I made this one. But today it's just like, let's do something. And I'm enjoying it, but it feels more normal anyways. SU... I know those are initials, but should I just call you SUV? Well, anyways, in the chat is saying, I get productive when I see others being productive, like doing screen share with an art friend on Discord. Yeah, that's a really good method. And that always makes me think that I wish I had more people that I could connect with doing art. But even if you have them, like sometimes you get busy or you're not in the right mood. But having them living right next to you, for example, is definitely a good way. Or if you see them in school every day and you can just, continue the conversation even on a daily basis, that's wonderful. And it's the same for me. Like when I see streams of talented people, I really get motivated to try the techniques that I see out myself. KLD asks, would you suggest learning how to paint to improve sculpting skills? I've improved my drawing skills a lot, but I'm confused if they will transfer to ZBrush. I really believe that they're strongly connected. So everything you learned in drawing will definitely help you in sculpting as well. And I myself really trying to get into drawing more from now on, especially in the spring break that's going to start next week for me, because I really think that it transfers back to sculpting. And to give you a bit more of an insight in how I think it transfers, the proportions that you mentioned earlier, you will be able to transfer what you have in mind better to both 3D and 2D. But on the other hand, in 2D you have more time and more opportunities to focus on the content. You can design things and easily try various shapes. And if you just start sculpting without having much experience in that, I think it's easy to become person who can only replicate things from an existing reference, but is maybe weaker at designing new things. But if you have the experience with drawing, I'm pretty sure that you're way better at creating, well, creative new concepts in 3D right away. So definitely go for it. I'm not too good myself yet at drawing, but I'm trying. How do you guys think the sculpt is going so far? It's kind of different from yesterday, and I really noticed doing it that when I do it myself without the reference from outside, I start again to fall back into my own habits. I can see how certain shapes are more similar to what I used to do rather than the new informations that I learned yesterday. Let me try to make some changes here. For example, the way this part was a lot lower in my case. But I think overall, like generally speaking, it improved. At least it's more stylized. Yeah, the first one is smoother. Okay, let me make the new one smoother too. It's about smoothness. Let's just start making it a bit more detailed. Now it's smooth. So, Aesthetic Pigeon is saying, 2D art lets you explore ideas and find ones you like and dislike much more quickly than with 3D, though that might just be my experience since I'm a lot better at 2D than 3D. I'm really curious at, oh my god, at what kind of art you do, Aesthetic Pigeon. What a weird name to call you. Anyways. But if you ever happen to have some time, feel free to send me something, and curious on what kind of things you work on. KDD is saying, it's turning out pretty well. I like the stylized look that you give some of your models, although you went with a more realistic look a few streams ago with the sculpt of the woman with the hat. Yeah, I kind of have like these up and downs between let's do more realistic, let's do more stylized. Right now I'm trying to be much more stylized again, because I'm enjoying this right now more. But eventually you practice similar skill sets, so I'm not worried about wasting my time on something that I won't be doing much in the future. I'm really surprised, by the way, that no one is asking for what software I use. I think that most people got used to the fact that I'm using ZBrush. I mean, last time I think 3 people asked. At least. Well, it's important to know. Actually, this sculpt was made in ZBrush Core still. This one is the first that I that I'm doing in ZBrush Pro. So actually I could be using some new tools, but I'm not sure how to use some of them yet. There's something I can try though. For the eyes, I like masking them out first. Thanks, Justin Chu. for asking that very important question. Okay, but to answer the questions quickly, ZBrush Pro, and my tablet is from Vacuum. Somebody was asking that before. Yeah, so I like masking the eyes out first, because then the edge will be very clear and defined. And there are many ways how you can improve the topology on it to support the edge of the eye better. But that's the part I'm not so sure about, and I'll try experimenting with something in a second. There are these polygroups, and if you separate them, how does it work? You go to polygroups, group by group masked. And so I think one way of doing it is if you go to deformation and you polish and you click on the corner. Oh no, polish by feature? Polish by group, that maybe. Yeah, you get kind of this edge. And maybe I can limit the effect to only the eyes area. Let's try that. And now I have kind of a really nice edge that I'll use for moving on, and I can define it clearly. It's a lot better than previously. And I couldn't do this in the ZBrush Core version because it would not support some of the features. I think it doesn't have polish by groups and things like that. Okay, Pigeon, got it. Creature design then. Sounds interesting though. The eyes are too far apart? Maybe. I kind of like it. We'll see. I think that it looks again different once you add hair. So I'll try to leave it like this for now. And it also allows you to really focus on the contours if you use these kind of tools like grouping. Do you guys actually have ZBrush for yourself? I'm curious a little bit. Like how many in the audience actually use ZBrush themselves? Because if no one has the software, I don't know how useful it is if I share like these kind of informations. I should try modeling a pigeon. I really feel like doing that. Maybe I have some time towards the end of the stream for a very quick sculpt. That would be fun. Oh, wonderful. Kaylin, did you buy it very recently in that case? I really wish you all the best for your learning in ZBrush then. Alright, now let's see if it actually works. So now that I have groups, if I hold down Control and Shift, I can select or hide by the vertex group, or what is it called, poly group that I have selected. I can invert it as well, like this. And so I'll be selecting now everything in outside, so that how does it work? Then I can work only on the eyes. And now I can kind of make them give them a little bit of an offset to make them more visible in the sculpt. I'm trying to change my method of doing the eyes, by the way. I used to make them hollow and put some spheres in it, but looking at what other professionals do, I see this method being more common, so I'm playing around with it to see what benefits it has for me. Pigeons and Blender. Well, I feel so sad still for Blender because I love Blender so much for what they do, their efforts, their publicity. They have such a nice roadmap and every new feature is so exciting. But with sculpting, I think ZBrush gets me better to what I want to make. So I'll be sticking with ZBrush for most of my creation work. But ZBrush is still, I'm still a huge fan of Blender and everything that's connected. I'll use the Z remesher for a second. Oh, you bought ZBrush right after my last stream. That's, well, I'm happy for you though. Please work hard, do your best. I'm very sure it must be hard and confusing at first, but please stick around and try to learn it. Take the time. You will enjoy it for sure. Alright, let's try it again. Z remesher. I think it's very good if you're able to kind of be satisfied with the tools that you have. I mean, being too materialistic about especially tools, saying that I cannot do something because I don't have the tools, can be troublesome, because then you always rely on, well, paying and spending money, consuming. But being able to say that clearly what's relevant for your work and what not it's a good thing, I believe. Wonderful. ZBrush managed to give me some good results. Okay, let me work from here. I was not very happy with how bumpy my mesh was, so I decided to remesh it for a second. And I'll try to work a little bit with the subdivision tools. I don't think I'll keep it in this what is it? I'll change the topology again later, but for now, oh well. I guess we have to redo the grouping. Let's try again. Well, do you people have any other questions? I don't have the most talkative day today, to be honest. Polish by groups. Let's see. Maybe I should try to work with the topology for now. So removing some of the faces from the group. Oh well, doesn't matter too much for now, I think. I don't want to get hung up with the details too much. I'll just leave it like that and try to work on either hair, ears, or mouth to get something moving forward. Well, that should do for now. Okay. Now, for the mouth, I had a new idea for an approach, because I was asked more often recently to rig faces. I haven't done it yet. I have yet to experience it, but thinking about how I'll make the mouth work, like in motion, I decided to try to mold the faces with an open mouth from now on, which looks really awkward. Actually, let me just leave it out for now. but I just thought I would let you know that that might be the approach to get there, because then you don't have to worry about the intersecting geometry, and making the rig will be a lot easier. So next time, when I have more practice and information on that, I will be sharing it again, but maybe something to think about. Let me do some hair instead, because one more feature that I wanted to try today was the curve brushes, which you also don't have in ZBrush Core. But they would give you the opportunity to make hair using kind of tubes that you can place on the mesh. And let's try to do it in a separate subtool, maybe. Okay, I just hope that the tubes will still stick on the surface. Oh well, it will do. It will. But I'm really not used to this yet. Okay, you know what? Let's just save this file here, and I'll spend the last 10 minutes on making a pigeon. And then I'll call it a day. There is a lot I still have to figure out before I can really show it on stream. I mean, it wouldn't matter, really. But I think it's kind of boring if I just play around and don't get really things done. So you have to save a project, right? If you save a document, then it will not save the 3D models. Save, where is it? File, save as. Yeah, that's the project. Okay. Now let me find a picture of a pigeon on my phone. That would be fun. Okay. Let me start with the sphere. Same workflow. I will get started with a big brush to get the overall shape right. And I might just as well start with Dynamesh right away. But a really low resolution, so that I won't get too hung up with the details for now. Let's see. But I have to say that I've never really tried to model animals or creatures too much. Quite curious myself how it works out. I think when I was a child, I used to hate pigeons. I'm sorry to say that, but I mean, I don't remember, of course, but my parents told me that I was running away from them, whereas most childs would be running towards them to make them fly away. But then I really grew up without any animals nearby, so I really wasn't used to them. I think it's funny how pigeons are always so confident that no one will do anything to them. They really don't care if they walk like really next to your feet, or I don't know. Well, to be expected from aesthetic pigeon. He says, when I would see them as a child, I would go up to them and try to pet them. Let's see if my pigeon will be aesthetically pleasing or not. Hmm. Yeah, but I think in sculpting it's really fun to take in these kind of random projects from time to time. Because oftentimes they'll be a lot easier. They will seem easier because your expectations are a lot lower. So me doing this sculpt, I'm starting it out as a joke basically, so I'm absolutely not worried about getting anything wrong or being disappointed with the result. And so it's a really nice thing to get yourself motivated again, or get some enjoyment, like fun out of the whole process. Something looks weird. Let me fix the mesh quickly. In order to mirror a model, because sometimes you mess things up on one side, you need to make sure that what you want to flip is on the positive x-axis. So I have to flip it once with the mirror in the deform tab, and then I go to geometry, modify topology, mirror and weld, and then it's fine. I mean, I'm looking at the picture though. Like, I don't even want to think about how awful it would have looked like if I tried to do it out of my head. I don't remember really what pigeons look like from the top of my head. Oh, also, did I ever share my experiences about sculpting in VR? I think I mentioned that I have the Oculus Rift now, and I tried sculpting in various tools in VR. And it's really interesting because I was expecting that in VR you have it in 3D, And so you should be able to really get the shapes right, because I mean, you don't even have to rotate around the object in order to figure out what kind of shape you're currently making. However, it turned out to be really different. It was actually really hard for me because I couldn't really understand the depth of it well enough. In VR I had a good feeling of roughly how deep everything is, but I still had to rotate it all the time in order to see it. And because the navigation was not as intuitive to me yet, because I just started out using it, it took a lot longer and the results were really not that impressive. So I'm curious where it goes with the with the VR sculpting scene, kind of. Maybe it's a completely different skill set that you have to learn once over. Or maybe it's about the tools, but I really don't know yet. This pigeon is fun. I really like it. Oh no, my pigeon has two heads now. Well, it's a monster pigeon now. No, let's do it properly. Let me get more high resolution to work with. Then I can try again. I might need a close-up of a head. Give me a second. There we go. Wow, I'm so concentrated on this one. Wait, let me use the inflate brush for a second. Get back some of the volume. It kind of looks unhappy. I still use Blender from time to time, but it's more of a tool that I use for certain parts of my workflow, like UV unwrapping or like retopology. I don't use it as a main tool anymore, a lot at least. Well, getting there, I would say. I once read a book about pigeons. I think the book was called Pigeon. Alright, now we might need some legs, I would say. And some eyes. Okay, let's leave it there. I always say that and then I keep going back and fixing a few more things, don't I? So, for the legs, let's see, what do they look like? Oh no. Move brush. Two legs. Wonderful. Oh, and now it comes the most complex part. How do I model the toes? Can I use C-spheres? That would be very useful. I wonder if you can mix them, though, in one tool in ZBrush. Oh. Oh, looks like you can. Wonderful. These are challenging indeed. Let's try to make something good out of this. You have 3 toes, right? And 1 in the back. Doesn't look too bad. Then let's make it an object. Can I just, I wonder if I can just dynamesh it. Looks fine. I guess I'll just work on it then. And so I'll be mirroring this object quickly so that I have it on both sides. Again, geometry. Wait. Adaptive skin, make adaptive skin. Okay, well, I have to append it. And I don't need this one anymore. Now I should be fine. Nice. Move downwards. Alright, I call that a pigeon. Wonderful. Alright, okay. It's not the greatest, but it was definitely fun to make. And I think you can recognize it. It just looks like weird with those legs. It looks so weird. Maybe this part is off. But what does our pigeon expert say? Did I do good enough of a job here? Is it approved? Okay. Wonderful. Well, alright then. Thanks everyone for joining today. I wish I could have done a bit more interesting sculpts, but I think towards the end at least we had a little bit of fun. I will be having a super productive month. I'm definitely expecting to be modeling a bunch of characters throughout this week. Not this week. The whole month. I might not be able to show all of them because some of them are for the person who commissioned them, but at least for my streams, I think I'll be having more to talk about and show also some new strategies in making characters, as I'll have lots of time to practice. And even though I'm not streaming after this, I'll definitely spend most of the rest of the day here sculpting and doing stuff. So thanks anyways for joining. And thanks for all the questions. Glad at least you guys had a good time. Alright, see you guys next week then. Goodbye.